For the next 4 to 5 minutes, I'm going to be explaining enzymes, what they are, how they work as catalysts, and how they can be regulated. I've split my slide into thirds, but these sections are heavily intertwined. They're fundamentally about the same topic when it comes down to it. I'll start with what enzymes are on a basic level. Enzymes are proteins that aid in chemical reactions. Each enzyme, unless it's denatured, which I'll explain in a moment, has an active site, where substrate clicks into it for the reaction. While in the active site, the substrate undergoes the reaction, forming the product. My diagram shows anabolism, where multiple substrates enter the active site to form a single product, but enzymes can also perform catabolism, where one substrate enters the active site, and the enzyme splits it into multiple products. There are two things that can cause an enzyme to denature, or stop working properly: changes in pH and increases in temperature. An environment that's too acidic, basic, or simply hot will cause an enzyme to lose its shape, meaning that the substrate can no longer fit properly into the active site. Now for how they work as catalysts. First off, I'm going to look at delta G, which is the key to understanding how enzymes work as catalysts. The Greek letter delta, which is represented by this triangle here, is used in many fields, from biology to pure math, to represent the change in something. The G stands for Gibbs free energy, which is the amount of energy in the system available to do work. Delta G, then, represents the change in the amount of available energy. If the free energy of the reactant in a chemical reaction is greater than that of the product, it's an exergonic reaction, and the delta G is negative, shown by the negative VE here. Likewise, if the free energy of the product is greater than that of the reactant, it's an endergonic reaction, and the delta G is positive, shown by the plus VE here. Now, in order to start a chemical reaction such as these, we need some activation energy. The boulder analogy explains this well. Even if you want the metaphorical boulder to go downhill, you still need to give it a push to get it started. To continue the analogy, enzymes are the simple machines of activation energy. Using enzymes, like a lever to dislodge that boulder from its position on the hill, you're going to have to expend significantly less energy than you would attempting the task unassisted, and it'll be a lot faster too. Note that while enzymes are a big help with exergonic reactions, they can't force endergonic reactions. That lever will help you get the boulder rolling, but it's not going to push it all the way up the hill. Finally, how we regulate enzyme activity, which is essential for proper control over metabolic functions. Like with everything else in life, we don't want to waste energy on unnecessary chemical reactions. And like in an assembly line, we can't have one part of the process working too fast for the rest to keep up. You'll end up with either a bottleneck or like a pile of things that need to be processed, and it's just a mess either way. One way to manage this is using regulatory molecules. These molecules can bind non-covalently to an enzyme and alter its reactivity, which in turn alters the speed at which the enzyme performs its reactions. These molecules can either increase or inhibit enzyme function. There are two main groups of regulatory molecules. First, competitive regulatory molecules. They attach to the active site of the enzyme, effectively blocking substrate from entering the active site. As a result, they can by nature only be inhibitory. They can't really do much else. Allosteric regulatory molecules, on the other hand, are more flexible in what they can be, in that they can be inhibitory or excitatory. They bind to the enzyme somewhere other than the active site, changing the shape of the enzyme as a whole. This can make the enzyme either more or less effective at its work. Alternatively, you can regulate enzyme activity through covalent modification. In these cases, functional groups make modifications to the enzymes. The most common type is adding or removing a phosphate from the enzyme, which either enables or disables the enzyme's function. Regardless of what method you choose, the most important factor of regulating enzyme activity is that the steps taken always have to be reversible. If you're just looking to have an enzyme take a break for a bit, you certainly don't want to permanently stop it from working. And there you have it, what enzymes are, how they work as biological catalysts, and how their activity can be regulated.